It's another fabulous day to be alive, and we are back with Office Hours with Rich Fine. Today, we are speaking with an international theater practitioner that has a theater company based in Cambridge. This practitioner is also an educator. They've taught at a number of universities all over Europe, most notably the University of Lille in France and Cambridge University. So we are very lucky to have the opportunity to speak with Marina Pallare Elias. And we're going to talk a little bit about her work called The Theater of Yes, and about, what she aims to do with it. I think the foundation of Theater of Yes is that we can use trauma and the stories of trauma to create experiences that heal. So this is right up the alley of our subject on Office Hours, and I hope that you enjoy this conversation.
One of the most important aspects that I think now does, and where we focus our impact, or social impact, is about changing stereotype and prejudice. The way that we do is about using personal stories, creating performance, using personal stories. We start using the heart. We start using deep emotions. This emotion travels to the audience, and this is the way that we can change the stereotypes and prejudice, showing by using this type of emotions how all these people are really amazing.
They start to feel like people are listening, and that's just incredibly important. For anyone to feel like they're being listened to is amazing, but for those guys especially, it's incredible. In my Rowan group, who are the learning disabled, they are so active and they're so lively and enthusiastic. It brings kind of valuable relationships that you'll find actually may last a while. Like, I've made so many friends from this, just from people I work with people I teach.
One day I heard there is a lady from Catalonia who is actually setting up some sort of drama group, and I thought that would be fantastic for Emma, because it's confidence boosting, self-esteem boosting, etc., etc. Marina did wonders. The first performance was a bit bumpy, but now there's no stopping her.
Emma, what was your favorite emotion?
Dancing.
Dancing?
And that was definitely my favourite. Being on stage is my confidence in it. I play Cupid and the cloud. I'm dancing. I'm my friends.
Raw theatre is a methodology, is like a new methodology that we use, and is a combination between physical theatre and applied theatre. We work with people at risk of social exclusion, people with learning disabilities, people with mental health challenges. We have a group with LGBT plus young people. We have a refugee group. Always we create a play about that, where are you coming from? What do you want to say to the world? How do you want to show to this world how you are amazing?
Working with everyone is really good. They're a really nice group to work with, especially Making Changes group. We're like a family, we sort of look after each other, I think. And it's a very safe environment. You feel safe to express yourself there. The teachers are really good. They're actors and actresses as well as just teachers, so they've been doing it.
Recommend it to people who don't think they can perform or don't think they can act, or people who, are shy or feel they're vulnerable in any way, because it's such a good way to build confidence, and it's such a good way for public speaking. You judge people very quickly about who you're going to socialise with, but in the theatre group you have to really trust the people and you have to engage with them, and you end up really, really liking them and becoming, very close to them, and it's a very supportive, family type environment.
With the group, we create this unconditional love. For me, going there is not only helping them and having this healthy, healing space that we are happy. Also them, they're giving me a lot. I'm learning every week. Then I want helping others is about interaction between them and me.
I'm Rich. This is Office Hours with Rich, and I am here today with a very important guest who has come up with this fascinating theater practice called the Theater of Yes. Could you introduce yourself for us?
Yes, my name is Marina Pallare, and I'm from Barcelona. I'm from Spain.
Wonderful. So we are so excited. She is our first international guest here,
Oh.
and her teaching resume is incredibly impressive. Her process is impressive. Now you have a theater company based in Cambridge, is that right?
Based in Cambridge, yes, in UK.
And it's called Acting Now, is that right?
Yeah.
And if you can just tell me a little bit about how Acting Now came to be. Maybe tell me a little bit about the first time that you used this kind of theater practice, to first time you facilitated and how it made you feel, that sort of thing.
Okay. Wow. My story starts when I was 15. Sorry to go really far away from now, but yeah, it's important to say it because when I was 15, I was having this difficult time in my life, really teenager difficult moment, with many mental health issues. And one of my teachers said, Marina, why you don't join, the theater company that exists in my high school? And then after a while, I decided to join that group, and that changed my life. Then, I was having a beautiful group, safe group, and all my mental health problems start going down, because I was feeling, people were appreciating me, what I was doing. Then since that moment, I knew that I wanted to use theater and social, as a tool of social transformation. Then always it's been linked. It's not like it was an adult. One day I thought, I will try a different route in my life, my artistic life. No. Then when I start, studying theater, my goal always was like, then I will use for transforming communities. Then it's how I start, being 15 and being one of the users.
Great. And so then obviously you went to school, I'm pretty sure. Now you're a PhD candidate at the University of West London. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you went to school. Did you study theater throughout your higher education?
Yes, I study theater and also study like another degree that, like a community theater, community degree. Then I combine both. Then always,
so like a little bit of social work, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's true that I never work in that area. I always combine theater and social, but at least, having a degree in social, social science, social work, helped me, to understand, with the communities that I work.
I see. Fascinating. So tell me a little bit about Acting Now. How does it work? You come up, is it one of the things that fascinated me when I was reading about your work is that you use personal stories.
Yeah.
Kind of like a story circle, is that right? And how do you make use of people's stories and then create a devised piece of theater?
Look, when I finished my theater studies and my social theater studies and everything, I was lucky because I started really working with communities using theater. Like all my life, I've been doing always the same. And then, I was using theater of the press and all other techniques. But in what point I had this reflection? When I was going to see community theater performance made, with the most beautiful intentions. But the problem, when I was seeing that performance, the quality, the theater quality was not there.
Right.
Then me, as a spectator, as a part of the audience, I was thinking, poor them, they cannot do better. They try their best. And that moment, when I realized that my thoughts were the ones that I just said, I start thinking, okay, what I love the most in my life, that is theater, is reproducing what I hate the most. That is, this pity feeling. And that moment I thought, okay, how with my skills, I have theater skills, how I can create a methodology, a language theater that I can use the personal stories that people bring, but instead, creating a, not really high quality performance. I can create a high quality performance, then, you know, using these personal stories from the communities. Then when the audience come and see the prejudice and the stereotypes change through, you know, seeing that quality performance.
That's interesting. That's
yeah.
a really fascinating place to be from, because I've been in that place too. And you think of these kind of devised theater pieces and you think, isn't that, in America, we might say, isn't that cute? You know, that they're telling their stories, and, you know, and it feels a little bit like a Christmas play or something, you know, not professional. Right. And so that's super fascinating that you're trying to bring, you know, some of the professional artifice of theater, you know, to these stories, because really their stories deserve, you know, the production of theater, right? In some way. Yeah.
Yes, they deserve. And is, you know, if I'm a professional performance, you know, theater director, then they deserve the respect that I use the theater in the best way that I can. You know, and I treat them as I would treat the professional actor if I work with them. Same level, same respect, and same demanding as well.
And can you talk a little bit about the sort of groups of people that you've worked with? From my reading, you've worked with people who have physical handicaps or physical disabilities, mental disabilities. You've worked with the LGBTQ plus community. Homeless community.
I always, you know, I work with the indigenous as well in Mexico. I work with women, and I work, you know, with deaf community and so many groups, mental health. I always say that I work with human beings. Then I don't mind which group, you know, I work, because for me, all are the same. You know, I use always the same, you know, try to use the same quality level. Then I don't mind. If they have stories that they want to share with the community, I will work with them. It's fascinating. Then, you know, I have this possibility to work with many different groups, and then, you know, observing society in a really wide perspective. It's beautiful.
And so now, obviously, so I'll share a little bit of something about myself. I'm getting ready to facilitate my first devised theater piece. And I've decided I'm going to use your techniques, right? Obviously, you wouldn't have written and published them. So I'm planning on using your techniques, telling personal stories of people who have recovered from severe addiction and alcoholism. And I was particularly fascinated by your use of the Greek chorus. Can you tell me how you use the Greek chorus in your work?
Yes, now I'll tell you, but please, after this conversation, remember me that I have to give the contact of my supervisor, because she is specialized in that. Working theater with recovered, and please, she'll be more than happy to speak to you.
Okay.
You know, when I started working with teenagers, when I was 22, 23, you know, my first years using theater and working with communities, I was working with these like gangs, you know, Latin gangs, you know, teenagers. Then I realized in that moment that if I had this problem, like if not everyone was, you know, working and, you know, rehearsing, and some of them, they were sitting down, then is where the conflict starts. Then I had to work all the time with the 15 that I had, you know, on the stage. Then, you know, then they could concentrate and work and not start, you know, arguments or conflicts. And then I had to use a technique that I could, you know, use everyone at the same time. And then because I had a Lecoq language, and in Lecoq, you know, we use chorus a lot. Then I start thinking, okay, I can start using the chorus. And through using the chorus, I start learning, and I'm using all the time, that the chorus, you know, imagine that we have a, you know, someone sharing a story, then, and the chorus is behind, and the role of the chorus is amplifying the emotions that the person, the protagonist, is saying. And maybe not only amplifying, also, you know, sharing maybe the high emotions that this person cannot say or doesn't know how to say it. Then the chorus start being really important part, because it's a way that they, you know, the chorus can hold these stories that sometimes are quite traumatical, you know, and difficult to say. Then what happened then is like my story that I think is my story and is full of guilt or victimization becomes our story, becomes a collective story. Then I feel more powerful and more safe to share to the audience.
That's fascinating because it is so difficult to deal with issues of trauma, on an individual level, because you feel like the whole world might be, judging you. But I can imagine one of the ideas I had in this facilitation of this exercise is that I was going to ask people to write, so everyone sits down and writes for a little bit. And I was going to prompt them with two questions. One, what's your most difficult or saddest memory from addiction? And then maybe what's your most beautiful or positive memory from sobriety? And I thought once we had these documents, then we could somehow maybe use the Greek chorus to tell these stories, right? Because then no one's alone in telling their difficult memories. What are your thoughts on that? Does that sound like?
I would think that just do the most happiness moment. Why? Because in my experience, when someone explains something that is happy, the most happiness moment that, something that occurred that is really important, comes after a difficult time.
Right.
Then they are going to share it to you both in a more safe way. If you open the door about the most difficult time, it's difficult to hold the space. No worries. If you, because it's a question that I like a lot to ask, what was the best moment the last year? Or what do you feel more proud, most proud that happened in your life last year? Always what they share is because it's coming, after something that was difficult.
Yes.
Then I will try, and you will surprise. I will try just one, the happiest. This is my my answer, if I can.
And
help
also,
you.
one of the challenging things about this work is you don't want to traumatize these people again, right? And so that's a big thought for me too, is sometimes talking about things that cause us pain can put us back in that moment. And now, obviously, I'm certainly not a social worker. You have some social work background. But most of the people who do this work are not trained therapists, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. What do you feel like your responsibility to your participants is as a theater practitioner to support them? If they do you have any anecdotes of someone who's maybe had a crisis that came about through dealing with this work?
It's interesting because, I do trainings in Theatre of Yes around the world, and it's something that people really always ask. Then always my answer is like, I never had any issues, to be honest, any moments. Of course, when people start sharing, they can start crying, they can start, but the important is the evolution that the group does. You're not going to arrive the first day and ask them, that question. You need time to develop, a group. You need a time that I will say in theater, yes, they wake up, and mind, emotions, and the voice and the body, everything. And then you need a time, that they feel ready to start sharing. And I never ask, what was the most horrible moment in your life? Because, I do Theatre of Yes. For me, Theatre of Yes is bringing stories that they feel full of guilt or victimizations. And through these stories, they see the lessons that they learn. Then I always, ask positive, questions like, tell me, or at least start from that point. Because in my experience, if you start, share a story that you help someone that it was really in pain. That you help, not you being helped, no, that you help. And always that story brings sufferance, being painful, because with the group that, with the people that I work are full of trauma around. But then, I try to go from another side, at least, to start in a more positive level.
And find a solution, right? Because there's
not a solution.
No?
I never find a solution because, it's a story that already happened. For me, the most important that I can give you an example that maybe you can understand better, but from a story that you felt that you remember that moment in your life and it's full of guilty, full of victimization, because always happen or one or another or both,
Right.
And then, okay, you have this story, and then with full of victimization or guilty, and then through the chorus and through the creativity level, we are creating. Then my scope is that they see the lessons that they learn from that story. I'm sure that you, with your experience, personal experience, now you can share to the society many lessons that I don't have and I can learn from you. Of
Right.
course, if you think from the mind, I always say the mind is the no, because the mind is no, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I'm not going to do anything in my life. But when you start using the yes, that is the rest, and through the group and through the leader and everything, you start understanding all the lessons that maybe you don't know yet. But then is the time to share to the rest of the society. Then my intention when we create performance is not that people think, oh, poor them, difficult time, being deaf, for example, no, with a group that I worked that they were deaf. No, it's like, okay, they are deaf. They had many bullying situations in their life. But through being deaf, what they can, share to the rest of the society? What are the lessons that they have that we don't have? Because we can, hear. Always, 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 this is my scope. If not, we leave, let's go something else.
And if we
later this interview, think about the lessons that
absolutely,
you want to share.
I'm so happy that you were willing to talk to me because, I think that's kind of the point of life, right? We all make mistakes, right? And they shouldn't define us. And there should be a solution that we can find out of them, some way that we can help society. So no matter what the lived experience is, be it being deaf or being a sufferer of the disease of addiction, no matter what the story is, there can be some way to benefit society. And so
not only this, sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
When you arrive and you think that it's because of you, and then you start sharing the story and you see that your other, participants have seen similar things, and the audience have similar things, because, all of us suffer from abandon. All of us felt lonely. All of us make mistakes. I don't like the word mistakes, but all of us.
Right.
Then, you start understanding that. I always say that the brain, the ideas, you have your ideas, I have my ideas. But the emotions, we have same emotions in different contexts, in different stories, but same emotions, fear, sadness, happiness. And then, what my work is, through the emotions, we can connect audience and the actors. Sorry for interrupting you. I get passionate, with this.
No, that's okay. And so then it's the goal that we liberate both the performer and we liberate the audience in some way from the oppression of guilt and shame. Is that your goal in some way?
My goal, liberation, I don't know. But it's true that when I work with my groups, imagine a group with mental health, and say, this is my always my sentence. Now that you've been lucky, do all this process, now you are going to help the people that are in the audience, because I'm sure that so many people in the audience suffering from anxiety, suffering, from many mental health difficulties. Then now you, through your stories, you are going to, help the ones that are there. And then, the communities they work, not only the process of transformation happens through, through the rehearsals. Also, then when they go to the audience on the stage, they feel that now is the time that they're going to help the audience. You see the circle. And then is what happened. Then it's about, cathartic experience. Many people say that I do ritual theater. I don't know, for me it's a big name, ritual theater, from an occidental point. But it's true that it has this cathartic experience, because if I can, share later a YouTube video from the performance, then you will understand it a little bit better, short videos about, what is. But this emotion and another emotion and sharing another emotion, through beauty, through this beautiful language that the theater can make.
Beautiful. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I think you've answered so many questions for us, and I'm excited to maybe go out and try to practice your craft. I think, and do this myself. I don't know where it will lead, but my goal in this is that, maybe we can get more people doing this work because it seems so important. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this time.